Hi Rock Creek, it's Miss Sims here. Today we have a really fun project that's actually going to take us to art classes. So we'll work on it today and we'll also work on it next week. This is a flower project that I love to start the year with because it helps us use some of that creativity we've been practicing, but we also get to learn about a famous artist, a master artist. That artist is Georgia O'Keeffe. So before we get too far into the project and understanding it, let me give you a little bit more information. Our artwork today is going to be based off of someone named Georgia O'Keeffe. She was a really famous painter. She spent a lot of time out in the deserts of New Mexico, and she would look for the smallest little flowers out in those deserts, and she would draw them huge and fill up the whole paper like you can see in these pictures here. That's what we're basing our work off of today. When you're done, your art project might look something like this. We have two main goals for today. The first one is to use perspective in our artwork. That means we are going to draw a little bit differently than we normally do. And to be successful with perspective for this project, you're going to want to make sure that your flower petals go over the edge of your paper. That basically just means your flower is too big for your paper, and that's a style of proportion. We talked about that a little bit, and that's part of our principles of design we're going to be looking at later in the year. Our second goal is to just neatly color in the background. Just make sure you don't color over the top of the flower and you're doing the best work you can. Today you're going to need paper. A scratch piece of paper would be nice, plus one nice clean white piece of paper. You'll need a pencil, although I'll be showing you how to do it with a marker just because it shows up a little better on the camera. And then you'll also need something to color with. Colored pencils or crayons work the best. It makes it look the nicest. If you don't have one of those, don't worry. I'm using markers on mine just so that you can see it come out nice and bright because the camera doesn't really pick up the colored pencil as well as it shows the marker. Now that you have an idea of what we're doing for today, make sure that you have all your materials out and that you're ready to go. We'll go ahead and get started with our project. So before we get started making our flowers, I just want to show you something really quick on a scratch piece of paper. Feel free to grab a scratch piece and do this with me. So there's a lot of different ways that you can make flower petals. So this first way that I'm showing you is kind of like a full petal at the bottom with a pointy top. They're kind of thicker. And so that's one way to make a flower look. You can do another one where they've got these nice, long, beautiful petals. A lot of flowers that are really popular in flower stores that people buy have these really long, beautiful petals. That aren't so wide at the bottom and they kind of layer, so there's some behind, some in front, and you keep adding and adding to layer until it looks something like this. Another option for a flower would be to make one where the petals go out on the outside. They're kind of a bell-shaped flower petal. These ones can be really pretty too. There's lots of great ways that you can make your flowers. I just wanted to show you some ideas before we got started. Feel free to use your scratch paper as well and decide what type of flower you want to make since your whole paper will only be filled with one flower. Once you've decided on what your flower is going to look like, you can go ahead and put your scratch paper to the side and get yourself out a nice clean sheet of paper. So since we want our flower nice and big, filling up the whole page and even going off the page, we need the circle for the center of our flower to be pretty large. You want to leave enough room for petals, but you want to be able to make sure that it fills up a good amount of space. I didn't put mine in the center because now that I want to start drawing my flower petals on, I think it's going to be really cool to have it not all be even on either side. So for example, I'm doing my flower petals now. You can see that I'm drawing them. I'm pretending to see exactly how far they'd go. So if they would normally go off the paper, you can see me pick my pen up and then set it back down. That helps me make sure that I'm not making my flower petals smaller just so that they fit on the paper. Because we want these petals to go off the edge just like Georgia O'Keeffe did. It's okay if not all of your flower petals go off the edge. Not all of mine are, but there definitely should be a lot that are going off the edge, and you can see me here again pretending that those flower petals are longer, so that way I make sure that they all end up the same size and I don't end up with some really tiny petals just so that they fit on the paper. Go ahead and finish up your flower. I'm doing this in marker just so that you can see a little better, but you should be doing this in pencil. You can go ahead and pause this video here and then play it again when your flower is finished. Now that your flower is finished, we need to decide what colors we're going to use, and it's really helpful to plan things out ahead of time. So here's all my color options. Again, I'm doing this in marker, but this will look so much nicer if you do it in crayon or colored pencil. If you have it around your house, it just makes it look neater and cleaner. Okay, so I have my markers here, and I'm trying to decide what colors I want to do each part of the flower, the middle, the petals, and the background. I decided the middle is going to be yellow. That's a pretty common color for flowers. And then you're going to pick 2 colors that you want to be your petals, because we're going to blend them together like you saw at the very beginning of the video, how there was some red and orange blended. So then once you have that petal, we're looking at the outside part of the flower, and I'm kind of thinking blue might look good for a background color, almost like the sky. I think it looked nice with the yellow and the other colors. So I'm just kind of starting by outlining. You're only coloring the background right now, so don't color over the top of the petals. I'm just going along the edge of the petals though, because I don't want to stop before the petal. Remember, I want the whole background neatly filled in. So I'm doing my little outlines because that's going to help me figure out where I need to color blue and make sure I don't accidentally put blue on any of the petals. My video is sped up so that way you don't have to sit and watch me color the entire time. So if you're not going as fast as me, don't worry. Feel free to pause the video and come back when you're ready. The last thing you need to do today is to start coloring in all of the open spaces behind your flower. That is all of that background color. So I already did my outlines, and you can see me in super fast motion going through and coloring all of the area behind my flower. Remember to be really careful not to get it on those petals or anywhere on the flower, because that's what we're coloring next time. Once you're finished coloring the background for today, and your flower is completed the way you like it, just not colored in, you can go ahead and stop, and next week we will continue working on this flower. Once you have that background filled in, you are done for the day. Nice work. You're going to want to put this in your art portfolio folder, your art sketchbook folder, with all those other papers that hopefully a grown-up picked up for you from the supply distribution. If you don't have that folder, that's okay. Keep it somewhere safe though, because we need to bring this for next time. Nice work today. When you submit this assignment, you don't have to take a picture for me if you don't want to. You can just mark it as done. That's fine. I'll get a picture from you next week when the whole project is finished. I hope you had a great time. If you have any questions about the project or about Georgia O'Keeffe and just want to talk a little more about it, you can send me a message. And until then, I'll see you next week.